You know, there's somebody, I can't think of his name right now, I'm subscribed to him, but he's doing a series of videos throughout this month where he's looking at all the individual Scooby Doo movies and side projects or side movies, if you will, that have come out throughout the years. And I thought about this as I was watching them, and I figured, you know what? I might as well try to give my, 2 cents. My 2 cents to the entire Scooby Doo situation. You see, with Scooby, there's no doubt what this person said is true. Originally, Scooby's first movie, if you will, if you want to call it a movie, was 1979's Scooby Doo Goes Hollywood. Now, although this was good in its own right. It had its own flavor and all that. It had its own flavor. It had its own theme and everything. I thought it was okay. I just didn't think it was as good as people would like to make it out to be. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a musical and all that, and yeah, it highlighted Scooby's, career, Scooby's adventures at that time from, Where Are You to the movies to Scooby-Doo show. I made it highlighted all that. And to me, the reason this was made, if you really want to think about it, it was the first primetime special for Scooby. And considered basically as a hour-long movie when you add in commercials and all that, or basically a 45-minute movie. But basically, Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, when you think about it, was actually made, when you think about this, as a 10th anniversary special. Because it was made in the year I was born, 1979. And Scooby-Doo debuted in 1969. So basically, Goes Hollywood was made for the 10-year anniversary. And again, I'm not trying to say it wasn't good or anything. It's just, it's kind of hard to look at something like that and say, what person came up with this idea? What person came up with the idea of, oh, let's do a hour-long special, 45-minute to hour-long special of breaking the fourth wall and making everything that Scooby-Doo, all the adventures that Scooby and the gang were on, nothing but a show, nothing but a behind-the-scenes kind of thing that, hey, that's nothing more than a show and all that, that mainly they're just actors being themselves, but you get the idea. You get the idea. And again, I don't know who came up with it, but again, I understand the reason they did it. And the reason they did it, as I said, was mainly because, in my opinion, it was for the 10th anniversary of Scooby-Doo. Now, here's the thing about Scooby. This would not be the first time he'd do 45-minute to hour-long movies. No. He actually did 45-minute to hour-long movies in the hour-long Saturday morning cartoon New Scooby-Doo movies. And the New Scooby-Doo movies basically introduced well, it didn't introduce, but kind of, it kind of introduced the fact that you didn't know who was going to show up. You didn't know what to expect or who to expect. And the one thing about the New Scooby-Doo movies that, make a long story short, that they did that basically has been followed upon by a lot of other shows and movies and stuff, is they did crossovers with fellow Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like they did crossovers with Josie, Speed Buggy, Genie, you name it. But anyway, besides that, I don't think I would consider I don't excuse me. I don't think I would consider Where Are You? I mean, not Where Are You? Scooby Doo Goes Hollywood as a movie. I would consider it more as a 10-year anniversary, 45-minute to hour long special. That's the way I would consider it. Now I know. Now I know. Um, that was my dog. Sorry about that. But like, but like I said, you know, I I know, like I said, why they did it was it's the 10th anniversary. It was the 10th anniversary at the time. That's why they did it. They didn't do it for any other reason except for that. And again, I don't really consider it a movie, but I understand why people do because sometimes movies do last an hour, and that's about it. Um, but the movies for me, when it comes to Scooby Doo, really started out in the Superstar 10 series. And what's funny about the Scooby Doo movies, just depending on how you look at it, um, some people, believe it or not, and I mentioned this before, would look at the timeline, would actually create a timeline between the films, and let's say 13 Ghosts. Yeah, they would create a timeline between them. I'm not lying, folks. They would create a timeline, kind of stating that, oh well, these movies came out after 13 Ghosts, but guess what? They came out. But basically, they would come up with the idea like, okay, this movie came out before 13 Ghosts, but the way I look at it is that the storyline has to take place probably before 13 Ghosts. That's how they look at it. That's how they look at it because I think it was Ghoul School or something like that where they had the mystery van from 13 Ghosts. Go figure. But despite whether or not you want to add a timeline or anything, then you try to make it as complex as some people want to make it out to be. Superstar 10 was just basically standalone cartoons or standalone movies. That's what Hanna-Barbera's Superstar 10 was, just standalone, direct-to-video or direct-to-television, standalone animated films. In other words, had no connection whatsoever to each other. It was completely different. It was completely different. And it was a different adventure every time. It had no connection, like I said, to the previous movie. Like, let's say, Ghoul School. You had Dracula in there, right? As the son of, as the father, I should say, as of Isabella, I think it was her name, Isabella. And yet, in the following movie that followed, you have a different Dracula who wants Shaggy to be his werewolf for the Monster Rally race. So you can kind of see that there was no real continuity, no continuation after another, because basically they were just their own individual movies. And like I said, if you want to create a timeline, you want to pick out a certain movie out of the three Scooby-Doo ones to say, oh, well, this took place afterwards or this took place before, then that's fine. That's your opinion. That's your right to do that. But, to me, I really, I really don't think there was any connection whatsoever. It's just their own individual continuity. Although I wouldn't have mind, be honest with you, I wouldn't have mind maybe a Scooby-Doo 13 Ghost movie to wrap things up during the Superstar 10 series. But, hey, that's just me. But anyway, after that, we did get into several other things. We did get into Scooby-Doo Arabian Nights. And this to me... Well, this to me was just basically a compilation, basically Hanna-Barbera's version of Bugs Bunny's 1001 Tales. That or 1001 Rabbit Tales. So that's mainly what it was. That's mainly what it was, and it to me it's just one of those movies that was direct to video, but also the kind that you could watch and it's okay, but it's not it's not the best. It's not the best that it could be. I mean, you want to take a look at the stories within it. I think the stories, like say the Aladdin one, where they kind of switched things up a little bit, and they made the princess, the female, basically they put the female in the in the Aladdin position, and they put the male in the royal, kind of basically switch things up, which is not the first time Arabian Nights has done this. But to me, I think it would have been better that instead of having Yogi and Boo Boo as the genies, I think it would have been better if you would have had just maybe a regular genie, just create a genie or something like that, and then have Cindy, Yogi, and Boo Boo in the positions of the characters. Like if you want to put the female lead in the Aladdin spot, Cindy would have been great for that. Yogi would have been great in the royal spot. You kind of get the idea. I think that would have helped out. But anyway, Arabian Nights is just basically, like I say, Hanna-Barbera's take on 1001 Rabbit Tales. Now, again, going back to the Superstar 10 movies, I thought they were good. I thought they were all right. I mean, Ghoul School and Reluctant Werewolf, to me, really stick out as two of the best as the two best ones out of the three that they had. And I think there was a reason why why certain ones out of those three were presented the way they were. Reluctant Werewolf, to me, I think was presented originally as to be the pilot, maybe, to a new series. That's just what I'm thinking, because why would you add in a character like Googie, who apparently basically was I guess you could say a bit of the Daphne of the, if you will, of the movie. Why would you put her in if you didn't probably have ideas of maybe doing a show? The same could be said for the not so popular and not so well, in my opinion, not so well done Boo Brothers. Basically, to me, even though the Boo Brothers didn't appear as much as this individual said, to me it was mainly a pilot, in a sense, for maybe a Boo Brothers show. That's the way I look at it. And, I could be wrong, but I think that's what they were heading for. But after those films, after those three Superstar 10 films came and went, as well as Arabian Nights did, then we got into something that a lot of fans had been waiting for. And this had been hyped up for months. You go online, people were talking about it. It had been hyped up for months. In fact, I ended up buying it the first week it was out because it was hyped up that much. And I'm talking about Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. The reason it was hyped up so much is because it was reuniting all the characters in an all-new adventure, basically where the supernatural was real, basically. And it was darker, more grittier. In fact, according to Wikipedia, it almost came close. It almost felt like it could have had a PG-13 feeling to it. That's how dark and gritty it was. But yeah, I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I bought the VHS, still have the VHS. I transferred the VHS to DVD, and I'm going to probably transfer the Variety DVD that I have with it on individually onto its own disc. And, and the success of this just kept going on and on. I mean, the next movie you had after that was Witch's Ghost, it was dark and gritty, but not as dark as Zombie Island. Then you had, I think, Alien Invaders, which was dark, but was a lot more lighter in tone than the other two. Then you had Cyber Chase, which, again, lighter in tone, if you will. A little dark, but still lighter in tone. And then you got into basically a revamping of these movies, which would come out once or twice a year, of these yearly movies, which would come out once or twice a year, where you had the characters back in the old original Mystery Inc. designs. And the cool thing about this is for some of the movies, you had the original cast together. You had one of the original cast together for the films. That was really, really cool. In a sense, you had Heather North back as Daphne. You had Nicole Jaffe, I think, back as Velma, and Casey Kasem as Shaggy, and Fred Welker as Scooby and Fred. And again, that was all great. That was all cool. It was really, really unique to have that all together. But of course, it didn't last. Heather and Nicole basically left, and you had Gray Delisi and Mindy Cohn come in and basically take over as Daphne and Daphne and Velma throughout the films, and I gotta say they're actually good representations of who they are. But like I said, after I think it was Alien Invaders or Cyber Chase, you had Legend of the Vampire, which again brought the characters back to the original designs and made it more lighter in tone. Then you had Monster of Mexico, and the list just goes on and on. And sometimes, and they went back to the original formula of it being a man in a mask, and sometimes they'd go back to the formula of it being actually a real supernatural situation. And to me, that's what makes these Scooby-Doo movies very popular and very successful, because you're basically taking them on adventures and expanding on adventures that normally you would have to back when they first started, you would have to squeeze into just a half hour, if not an hour, and it wouldn't work. The expansion of these movies and the way they are, these things work. They work without a shadow of a doubt. They really do. And it really takes chances. It really takes chances. It does things that, it really takes chances. I mean, like last year, for the first time, I think since Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, Music of the Vampire was a musical. It was the first musical since '79. And another thing about it, and a lot of people point this out, is there are certain times in the movies where they basically poke fun at themselves and at pop culture. So, to me, the Scooby-Doo movies that have been going on for been going straight forward since '98, have really been worth watching, renting, and getting if you can, because it basically takes the characters to another level. Now, I will admit that the recent movies have taken a bit of the style of Mystery Incorporated and stuff like that, so you can kind of have not a connection, but somewhat of a similarity, so that when you would watch Mystery Inc., you go like, oh, it's the same animation. But again, just a terrific. But again, these movies are just terrific, and you got to check them out. Now, some are not as good as others. I will admit that, but there are majority of the time they are really, really good. So you have to watch them, and you have to check them out when you can. Mask of the Blue Falcon is good. I haven't checked out. I think I've seen a little bit of Music of Vampire. I think it's good. So you got to check these all out. They're really, really good. And if you're a Shaggy Daphne supporter, there are hints there that you could find if you want to. But overall, these movies are definitely worth watching, and I highly recommend watching this guy's series throughout the rest of this month of May, not April, but May. And if I said April earlier, I apologize. But really, look into it and watch his series, see what he has to say, and then give your own thoughts on it. Me personally, like I said, I think the Scooby-Doo movies are good. I'm not going to deny it. So that's all I have to say about it, and I'll talk to you guys later. Comment below and let me know what you guys think.
You guys really haven't seen any videos like this lately because I haven't even been bothering to look at Craigslist. But I guess Chris came across this and they kind of caught my interest because, well, red, white, and blue, can't go wrong with that. And these are a little bit older than what I'm used to working on, but on the other hand, having 3 of them as a lot could be a very beneficial thing for movie shoot or TV rental or something like that. So we're going to head up here. It's about 30 miles away and go take a look.
Rooftop.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. A rooftop flat screen.
No, I think it's just a sign.
Wow, that thing is bright. This is downtown LA. Okay, here we go. Let's see, what is she going to tell us to do? There's a white picket fence right there.
Is that it? That might be it.
There's no lights.
Right.
Well, every friggin' house has a white picket fence.
So it's
Go up a little bit more. I think she got lost.
11:24. This is 10:20. All right.
Every single house has a white picket fence.
11:24. 10:32. Give me a little ways to go.
Okay, you never know what you're walking into one of these, right?
He has a Australian accent, I think.
Oh, does he?
Here we go. 16. 20. There it is. There we are.
There's no
pressure. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta go through and replace capacitors and stuff.
and I put the blue one in and
maybe
the spark
even,
came out.
yeah, sometimes a tube.
A spark came out, huh?
Well, I had a plug.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's just that two-pronged.
There it is.
Got a life of their own.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
Well, I got them from a friend that collects them, and he left. He went back to the UK, and he said, "Do you want
wow.
these?" So I took them off him, and that was probably about 5 years ago. And it's just
PAL
been
over
in our
there.
back room here, so.
Although you can get PAL on a black and white set. But
Can you?
Yeah, it's all digital now, though. But
Oh. Slow it down to 25 frames a second.
And this one, I'm kind of scared to plug it in because it makes a sound.
that's okay. All right.
But I put the plug in, it sparks.
Yeah.
It's just that,
That's all right. You don't have to.
That's cool, man. I'll take them. They're cool. I like them.
I always thought you could. I've seen people turn them into fish tanks.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. Hell no. That's the enemy of the
The TV, the vintage.
That's the problem. Or even cat boxes as well. I've seen.
Oh yeah, let's turn it into a cat box.
So,
Yeah.
like a cat bed kind of thing. Is that what you were expecting then?
No,
No,
that's
this
I
guy can make
restorm.
Well, I might end up buying it back off you then. Because I mean, that's. Is that what you do? Is it?
Yeah, I repair them.
So you could get that going.
10 minutes, huh?
No, not 10 minutes. No, they probably have a lot of capacitors in them that need to be replaced.
We can-
It's a lot of work.
We can point you to some videos. Does Bob have some videos that he's working on?
I'm not really technically minded.
If you just want to see,
But I'm serious. If you got them going and you wanted to sell them, I'd be interested in that because that's something I was sort of looking into.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I loved them. That's why I took them off him. But, so yeah, if you fiddle around with them and want to sell them again, I'd probably be quite interested.
Sure.
Yeah. Right, I love all the old video consoles as well back in the day.
The wooden ones?
Yeah, any kind of old 80s video games are pretty cool. But yeah, if you take those and then let us know how it goes and get one of them working, I might be quite interested in
Okay, cool.
taking it back.
Yeah, we don't know if the picture tubes are good or obviously that one right there is probably the best foundation to work from, but
I think look at this one. I think there's nothing happening there.
They're series string, right?
yeah. It's probably not a good idea to run them until we go through them and check the
We know
the capacitors and stuff because they'll short and they'll do more damage than
They've got the old tubes in there, isn't it?
You're buying a project when you get involved with this stuff. We're very familiar with it.
Yeah, I'd turn that one off, man. That sounds.
Fly back.
I'm scared of them, especially when the sparks came out of the plug. I think it's.
All right, let's take a quick look at them. This is the blue one. It's got all the knobs on it. Let's see what we got. Do we have a model number? 14T014. 150 watts. It's got the back. All three of them have the backs. I think Dave has one of these. Do you have one of these, Dave? I think I remember you telling me you had one of these. Maybe you sold it. Anyway, it looks like a circuit board. Look at it. It looks like it's built like that RCA I worked on where it's got a circuit board.
Yep.
And the tubes are mounted to the back of the circuit board. Another one of these things that's really hard to work on. Well, let's check the CRT. And this one does use an ion trap. Two of the CRTs were different colors than one, so we're going to look at that. The blue one has an ion trap.
Doesn't say what. Coming right up, isn't it?
Yes, sir, but I'm at 6.3 volts, too. Actually, I'm a little bit above 6.3 volts.
Got some mileage on it, but it'll still produce a picture.
Yeah, it'll produce a picture, but it'll be kind of cloudy. So I'm getting 0.6 on, what is this, the blue one? 0.6 on the blue one. Let's bump it up here for a second. Well, we've got a light bulb going in there now. Alright, I bumped it up to about 7 or 8 volts for just maybe 45 seconds and then dropped it down to 5 volts and it seems to be holding. It's coming down slowly, but I think it's just maybe the cathode's a little dirty or something from sitting. So blue seems to check okay. Okay, here's red. Red has all the original factory knobs, except
Back's in better shape.
this one's broken. But that can probably be glued. back's in better shape. Oh, I see what I was doing wrong. It goes in the bottom first.
Yeah.
Is this the same model? 14 T009. What was the model on the other one?
Got a tube.
This one's got a tube chart. What's the horizontal output tube on this? 12 BQ5?
12 BQ6.
Oh, 12 BQ6. Yeah, BQ5 would be the audio output. I always. This one has an ion
Trap as well.
magnet
And it's a
too.
14 QP4.
QP4. Oh, baby, you light up my life. Look at this one go. Put it at 6.3. Yeah, red passes the test. It's got like a little airplane type symbol on the knob or something. The Jet Age 707.
Yeah.
This one, okay, this one here has.
Some aircraft is coming in, and people were. You were in the jet set, if you had one of these, you were cool.
This one here has a like a metal beauty thing on it that's missing off the cracked one. Okay, this one's yellow. I was hoping this one was white. That way I'd have red, white, and blue. It's in excellent shape, too. It's got all the original knobs. And this one is a 14T012. Wonder if they had 14 colors, if the last two digits are relevant as the color. Wonder if I have the, what is that? Wonder if I have the SAMs on this. You know what that is? That's off of a, like a caulking tube.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? Let's. Oh, look at this one. The power plug's in a different spot on this one. It's up here on the other ones.
And I don't know if we have, well, take a look at the top of the, get a good look at that before you
What? The top of what?
damaged. Got a big bakelite missing. So it's a repair, possibly, if it's still under vacuum.
Okay, we got to very gently remove this. Well, it has continuity. Can you see it light? Don't touch. Oh, it's lighting up. Okay, so it's got vacuum. Oh, here we go. God, that's at 4 volts too. Look at that. Wow, look at that one. 5 volts, all the way pegged. Unless it's gassy or something. And this one has an ion trap too. Oh, look at the spider eggs inside the tube shield. It's packed with spider eggs. That's pretty cool. Does this one use the same, the 6BQ6 or whatever? Or 12BQ6?
Yep.
What's the damper? 17?
12 AX4.
Okay. There you can see that someone's been working in here. They got penciled. Where's my flashlight? They got penciled in here the tube numbers. You got Sam's on your phone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I should do it. Let me grab the Sam's book. Let's have a look. Okay, I know this camera won't focus on this, but it says 14T007/008/009/010 11 12 14. PCB 480-3. And then there's a 14T 16, 17, 18, and 20. But that's the same Sam's number. It's 310-4. There's a chance I do not have that. I should run out there and look.
Wow, you got a
Yeah, I grabbed that on accident.
1950. Oh, this isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's it. It was in the same folder. Okay, 1956, and here's the model.
This is a 16 AT4. This is another set.
009, 010, 011, 012, 14. The M line. 007 and 08. So which ones did I have? 9, 14, and 12? I have a 9, 12, and 14. This is probably about when mass production was starting to really go wild. To reduce audio buzz, add 800 mmF capacitor. That's pretty interesting. Component change. Two IF stages, one N64 detector, 6 AU8, video output, and then it's got the 5T8 ratio detector. I'm not really a fan of that. That thing really seems to buzz up a storm. And there, right there, is that 800 picofarad capacitor they're saying to add to reduce buzz. Boy, this is a really low tube count set. Double triode vertical multivibrator, one sync separator, horizontal AFC. That's interesting. Look at how the cathode of the vertical output is looped back down through a coil on the flyback. I can't say that I've ever seen that before. I wonder what the point of that would be. This must have been the $99 special. And looking at this, because it's not easy to take it apart. Yeah, it's kind of got a big circuit board in here. Man, it does look like it's loaded with paper capacitors, doesn't it? Actually, this thing has a fairly low, it looks like a fairly low paper capacitor count. Usually the paper caps are the ones with the voltage ratings near them. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Only 14 capacitors, and some of them are rated at 3,000 volts. 250 picofarads at 3,000 volts. Those, I doubt those are paper. Probably disc. This appears to be a very budget set. Maybe the M line is for marginal or mediocre or something. It's definitely not a high-end model. It was more probably just for what, a kitchen or a bathroom or something like that.
No DC restoration.
DC restoration, it doesn't have hardly anything. DC restoration. This thing is so minimal. How many tubes does this have? Not many. 13 tubes, including the 2 tuner tubes and the CRT. So it's a 10 tube set. So you have 1, 2, well, it's an 11 tube set, including the 1X2. 1X2, isn't that the
A voltage rectifier.
in a horizontal? I mean a focus circuit in an RCA. So it's got a damper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's it. Very simple. Very minimal.
Much money on it.
So in summary, all 3 of them have all the knobs. All 3 of them are in decent shape. They all have the backs. And they all have decent, actually very strong CRTs. So I guess once you restored one and kind of got it down, it would be easy to knock the other 2 out, since they're pretty much all the same. The red one seems noticeably heavier to me. This one's 27.5 pounds. This is the yellow one. And the red one weighs 32.5 pounds. The red paint must have more lead in it. And the blue one weighs 25 pounds. So there's a vast, not a vast difference, but there's a noticeable difference in the weight between the different colors.